Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Phil Arno. Did you ever wonder what it would be like to be responsible for prosecuting people charged with crimes? In Erie County, that job falls to our district attorney. How has the coronavirus affected criminal prosecutions in Western New York? And what about the civil disturbances? Do people who are accused of doing bad things in an emotional situation, such as the protests, are they going to get a break? Speaking of the protests, the whole thing about inequity. If you're rich, do you get away with more things than if you have no money? Well, these questions are for the man in charge, and only he can really weigh in on how the system works. And here with us now is John Flynn, our Erie County District Attorney, to talk about these things. Welcome to the show, John. How has this whole situation with coronavirus affected your office in the last few months?
It's affected tremendously, Phil. Pretty much the entire court system is closed. There was a executive order that was issued by the governor in early March, and the executive order basically said that all of the statutes and timelines that I'm under are told, which means that they're basically frozen. So, I have, 5 years from the date of a crime to bring a felony to arrest. All right, that's frozen. For those people that are arrested, I have various timelines, speedy trial rules where I have to keep things moving. All right. All of those have been frozen. So pretty much the entire criminal justice system and the statutes have been frozen. Now, what that's done pretty much is that's closed the entire court system down. And so since mid-March, literally the court system of not only Western New York, but across the state has been closed. So the only thing that's really going on a regular daily basis are arraignments. Arraignments being the first proceeding that takes place after someone's been arrested. Okay. Those have been going on in effect since mid-March because obviously people are still getting arrested. Right. So besides that, it's been closed.
Well, now that brings up a point that I'd like to follow up on, and that is when somebody is arrested and arraigned and they're incarcerated with no bail or they can't make bail. Yep. Isn't there some kind of and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a constitutional right to a speedy trial? And if they were to insist on, and I'm not sure what the time frame is that's defined as a speedy trial, but is this something where somebody can force the issue?
They can try, but they are not going to be successful because there is a state of emergency declared. So the state of emergency, the public health crisis that we have, trumps that. Okay. And so, listen here, there are individuals just like you have articulated here. There are a number of individuals who have been arrested since mid-March, and they have been held with either without bail or the bail the judge put on them they could not make. Now, normally, just to give you a couple examples here, normally, if they're in custody on a felony, which 99.9% of them are, okay, I have to have a hearing within 6 days of the date of arrest. Okay.
All right. Is that for the arraignment?
After the arraignment.
After the arraignment.
After the arraignment. So you got the arraignment now, all right?
Okay.
Within 6 days of that, I have to have a hearing to determine if there's probable cause or reasonable cause
to maintain the charges
that maintain a felony. All right. That's been frozen by the governor's executive order.
All right. Now.
Yeah. So they're in there past 6 days.
Do you find in your position that it changes your job, not job so much, but the challenge to have a suspect that is wealthy enough to get the best lawyers and go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Think of the O.J. Simpson trial, for instance. You know, if O.J. Simpson had not been a rich, famous star and hadn't got that team of lawyers, he probably would have been convicted very quickly in a short trial, I think, because any normal defense would have probably not had the resources and not had the strategies and so on. Fast forward to you and your position and your office. How does that affect, I mean, is there a separate justice, kind of, procedurally anyway, for somebody who has more money?
Well, I agree in general with the premise that you get what you pay for in life. All right, so I agree with that kind of just big picture overall. I'll push back a little bit on your premise here to the extent that, you know, there are a lot of great criminal defense lawyers who work in the public defender's office. Our public defender's office here in Buffalo and Erie County is filled with phenomenal lawyers. In addition to that, we also have what we here in Western New York. Now, it's different in other areas across the state and across the country, but in Western New York here, we have what they call an assigned counsel program, where if an individual can't afford to hire an attorney, then there are private attorneys that are out in the public, you know, not public defenders. So private attorneys who are on the assigned counsel list, who then get assigned to a criminal defendant by a judge. And these are, again, some of the best and brightest lawyers we have here in Buffalo. Okay, so listen here. Obviously, the more money you have in life, the more resources you can buy, and the more experts you can obtain. So listen here, I'm not naive. I agree with that, all right? But I do want to just point out that we have outstanding lawyers here in Buffalo who are public defenders and who are on the assigned counsel program.
Do you have any stable of lawyers where when you see them coming up against you, you say, "Oh no, not him again"?
Oh sure, oh absolutely. There are, you know, and again, that question goes two ways. Okay, the first way it goes is that I say to myself, "Oh no, man, this is a really good lawyer." The second way can go, "Oh no, this guy's a pain in my butt." So it goes both ways.
Every profession has its little quirks and challenges.
Correct.
Let's get back to the recent events, the disturbances. Okay, you know, if somebody is arrested after damaging property or doing other things that are illegal, they've been arrested. Whether it's because of the protest and they haven't obeyed police orders, or whether it's an actual crime that they've committed, arson or looting or whatever, because of the chaos and because of the situation and because of the politics of everything and the mood of the country, are these going to be handled, or are these things handled any differently than a normal situation where a crime is committed?
Absolutely not. I don't factor in politics at all. I factor in circumstances. I factor in the totality of the circumstances, depending on the specific and individual crime. So there are a number of different levels. You know, as of right now, from the time that we're recording this right here today, there are approximately 40 protesters that that have been arrested that I'm prosecuting. All right. Now, again, I use that word protester vaguely because, again, the vast majority of the protesters have been peaceful.
Right.
All right. So the better word to use than protesters is the agitators. So let's use that word instead. So there are approximately 40 agitators that I am prosecuting right now. They range from a number of different crimes, from the most serious, which is I am prosecuting one person for aggravated assault on a police officer, where they allegedly rammed their vehicle into a line of police officers and allegedly ran over one, all right? That's a Class B violent felony, all right, up to 25 years in jail. So that's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum is a curfew violation. Those who have been out past curfew, that's a B misdemeanor. It's obviously not as a serious charge. So every case will be handled individually. Every case will be handled fairly, and it will all depend on what the charge is, what the facts are, and what the circumstances are.
Okay, well, we've got about 2 minutes left in this segment. You mentioned the case that has gotten a lot of attention, and that's the vehicle that ran into the police officers. If there's a defense that says, my client panicked, unusual circumstances, everything was chaos, and her foot hit the accelerator, and how can you, as a prosecutor, how can you do you have to prove intent? And how do you do that? How do you know what's going on in somebody's mind?
Well, that's the thing. I don't have to prove intent as far as a premeditation in the mind, all right? All I have to prove on the intent end is that the individual intended to drive into the line. And then I just have to show what the natural and probable consequences are of driving into a line of people. So I don't have to prove that this person specifically said to themselves, you know what, I'm gonna drive and I'm gonna hit that guy right there and I'm gonna run him or her over, okay? I don't gotta prove that. All I gotta prove is that the individual intended to drive the car into a line of people, and then the natural and probable consequences of doing that, which in this case is you're probably going to hit somebody. And if you hit somebody, the natural and probable consequences are you may, in fact, run them over. That's all I got to do.
Injury, yep, that's serious.
Yeah.
Okay, well, interesting, just a few things that we got out, and
Sure.
a lot more to talk about. We're out of time for this segment. We'll be right back right after this.